The high earner, he's mine. Uglies should stick to mingling with ordinary folks. Clutching onto Ryan, Emily declared this with a triumphant look on her face. Ryan, too, seemed somewhat pleased by this. Emily, you always say the funniest things, I said, immediately bursting into laughter, holding my stomach. Emily looked puzzled. What's the matter? Upset because I stole him? Well, snagging a director is quite a catch, isn't it? Poor you, how pathetic. Emily had been smug until then, but my next words made her face stiffen. I'm the director, you know? I am Samantha Adams. This year, I turned 55. My family consists of my elderly mother and my younger sister, Emily. Emily, my sister, has quite a troublesome personality. That's because she finds joy in harassing me. Since middle school, Emily started to see me as an enemy. The reason was that we were often compared in terms of our test scores. Emily, who did poorly in her grades, was often scolded by our parents. Because of this, Emily started to resent me. Emily would ostentatiously date the guys I liked. As a result, I could never have a boyfriend. Emily had a signature phrase. Oops, I did it again. I stole another guy you liked. Sorry, sis? She would always say this with a triumphant smile on her face. The guy I liked in middle school was someone I was quite serious about. So, when Emily took him away, I was so frustrated that I cried all night. I wish I could have done something, but I couldn't compete with the cute and cunning Emily. So, I had no choice but to cry myself to sleep. After such incidents repeated several times, I gradually gave up on the situation. Even if I liked someone, Emily would just steal him away. I thought it was better to focus on my studies rather than fall for someone. I had a dream of becoming a doctor. I wanted to help others with medical care, like I was once helped during a hospital stay. I wanted to make someone smile through medical care. That became my goal. So, I worked even harder on my studies. Emily would mock me, nerd, throwing away your youth. Well, with your looks, it's not like guys are lining up for you, she would laugh scornfully. I used that frustration as fuel to dive even deeper into my studies. While Emily was out playing with guys, I became more absorbed in my studies. Studying was incredibly rewarding. The more I worked, the better my grades got. Eventually, I attended a women's medical college. I achieved my dream of becoming a doctor. Emily went to a community college and became a preschool teacher, but she quit soon after. I left home when I went off to college. The reason I left was to avoid Emily. As a result, I only went back home for the holidays, like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Since then, I've been working at the hospital for over 20 years. It's been a continuous struggle. Starting as a medical intern, the world of doctors was still very much a man's world. My male colleagues seemed to be favored by the department heads and directors. It appeared that women were expected to quit after getting married, so I felt the training I received wasn't as intensive as my male peers. But I couldn't afford to lose. So, I devoted myself to work without getting involved in any romantic relationships with men. As a result, I began to be recognized by my peers and have reached my current position. Just when I thought I might remain single, I started dating Ryan. Ryan was a colleague from my cohort, but we hadn't had much interaction before. I was in surgery, and he was in internal medicine. We only really met at gatherings of colleagues. So, initially, I never imagined it would lead to romance. The reason I ended up dating Ryan was purely by chance. We ran into each other at a restaurant we both happened to visit on our day off. We shared a table and got to talking. Conversations with Ryan were enjoyable. Being doctors, we had a lot in common and never ran out of things to talk about. I knew Ryan was divorced, apparently because his ex-wife had cheated on him. Well, that couldn't be helped. I found myself wanting to spend more and more time with the enjoyable Ryan. He felt the same and asked me out. I was thrilled and immediately said yes. We went on many dates, trying to match our busy schedules for meals together. It was hectic but fun. Then, about 6 months into our relationship, it happened. "I want you to marry me," Ryan suddenly proposed. I was already over 50 and had given up on marriage. But Ryan's proposal gave me a glimmer of hope. Before I knew it, I was saying, yes, I'd love to Ryan. I called my mom to tell her the news, and we planned to visit home with Ryan to formally introduce him. "I can still find happiness as a woman," I muttered to myself. I was blissfully unaware of what was to come. The day came to introduce Ryan to my family. We headed to my parents' house together. It was the first time I'd been back since New Year's. Feeling a bit odd, I said, "I'm home," and opened the front door. "Welcome back." My aged mother greeted us. My father had passed away 5 years ago from illness, so now only my mother and Emily lived there. Emily had been married but recently got divorced and returned home. So, the chances were high that she'd be there. I prayed she wouldn't be. In the past, Emily had stolen several men I liked. I didn't want Ryan and Emily to meet. But my prayers were in vain as I heard, "Big sis, long time no see." There sat Emily, confidently in the living room. I stood there, dumbfounded, as Emily looked at me with a gleeful smile. "Big sis, you're finally getting married, right? It's great you found someone with such unique taste. I waited here just to see this precious fiancé of yours." After saying that, Emily looked at Ryan. "Nice to meet you. I'm Emily, her sister. We're gonna be family, so let's get along," Emily said, flashing a smile at Ryan. "She's cute." I didn't miss Ryan muttering that under his breath. Emily looks much younger than her age, being only 2 years younger than me. She's a natural beauty, resembling our mother. Which probably explains her success with men when she was younger. In contrast, I resemble our late father, with a more modest appearance. Then, Ryan and Emily started chatting happily. "Wow, so you're a doctor just like my sister? That's impressive. Given your age, you must hold a senior position? How wonderful." Emily was showering Ryan with compliments, as usual. "It's nothing like that," Ryan said, not seeming to mind. His cheeks were relaxed, and it wasn't a pleasant sight for me. As they were creating their own little world, Emily suddenly murmured, "I wish I had met someone like Ryan. I would have loved to marry him." "Emily!" I couldn't help but reprimand her. Even our mother frowned at Emily's inappropriate remark. Then Ryan said, "It's okay, Samantha's just too strict," as if he was scolding me. After that, Emily and Ryan continued to chat happily. My mother and I were left out. I began to feel a bit uneasy about the future. Since then, I've avoided taking Ryan to my family home. I hadn't been in touch with Emily at all, but after introducing Ryan, she started emailing me frequently. "Bring Ryan over to the house. If you can't, take me to his place. And of course, you're paying for the cab," she would write in these absurd texts. If I let Emily meet Ryan, who knows what she might do? I might even lose him to her. Fearing this, I've been keeping Ryan away from Emily. But lately, Ryan's been acting strangely. We used to have meals together whenever our off days aligned. But recently, he's been turning me down more often. "Sorry, but I have plans with a friend on Saturday night," he'd say, looking regretful. We both work at the same hospital, and our shifts are 24 hours. So matching our free time is hard. Having meals with Ryan was precious to me. But I couldn't push him. So all I could say was, "Okay, let's plan for another time," and let it go. Then one day, a shocking truth came to light. Ryan and I had decided to register our marriage on the day we started dating. He wanted to cherish our anniversary, saying, "Wouldn't it be romantic to register on our special day?" So, I was eagerly waiting for that day to come. With just 2 weeks left until the registration day, I received an unexpected call from Emily. I was at the hospital, and she said, "I'm at a cafe near your hospital right now. Can you come over?" I didn't have any surgeries scheduled that day. And since Emily didn't want to talk over the phone, I reluctantly headed to the cafe she mentioned. When I arrived, a bad feeling washed over me. To my dismay, Emily and Ryan were sitting together, chatting and laughing. Why are Ryan and Emily together? I couldn't help but feel uneasy. When Emily saw me, she yelled, "Big sis, come over here quick," and gestured loudly. Until then, Ryan had been smiling, but he looked somewhat uneasy upon seeing me. What's this all about? I asked bluntly as I took a seat, directing my question at Emily. Then, Emily began to speak with apparent joy. Actually, I married Ryan yesterday. We filed the marriage registration. So now, Ryan's mine. Could you break it off with him, please? What? What are you talking about? I turned to Ryan in disbelief. It made no sense that Emily and Ryan were married, especially since I had been careful to keep them from meeting. My mind was nearly in a panic. Then, Ryan began to explain hesitantly. Emily came to our hospital and gave me her contact info. We started talking from there. Apparently, the reason he had been declining my invitations was because he had been seeing Emily. And, it seems, he had gradually fallen for her. So, that means our engagement is off. But you'll be fine, right, Samantha? You've always been single, you're used to it, aren't you? Ryan said with a smirk, showing no sign of remorse. It was as if he didn't care about the whole situation. Just that his choice of spouse had changed. I can't believe this! I let out a voice filled with despair. Just when I thought I had finally found happiness as a woman, it was so easily stolen by Emily. And now, Emily and Ryan were already officially married. No matter what I did, I couldn't be with Ryan anymore. As I was sinking into despair, Emily chuckled. The high earner, he's mine. Uglies should stick to mingling with ordinary folks, Emily said, clinging to Ryan with a triumphant look. Ryan, too, seemed not entirely displeased. Well, someone like you, an old maid, there's no demand for you in the dating scene, right? You're just a low-level doctor, you don't have money, do you? Emily continued to look down on me, bursting into loud laughter. That's when I realized a major misunderstanding on Emily's part. Understanding the situation, I suddenly found it amusing. Emily, you always say the funniest things, I said, then burst into laughter, holding my stomach. Emily looked puzzled. What's the matter? Upset because I stole him? Well, snagging a director is quite a catch, isn't it? Poor you, how pathetic. Emily jeered, still convinced she had the upper hand. It was time for a counterattack. I couldn't just stay silent after being ridiculed like this. I grinned slyly. It was time to make Emily and Ryan realize they were heading for a downfall. Emily had been smug until then, but my next words made her face stiffen. I am the director of the hospital, you know. Emily clearly hadn't expected that. What? What do you mean? I heard other doctors talking about the director getting married when I first went to the hospital. Wasn't that about Ryan? Emily asked, now flustered and questioning Ryan. Ryan looked bewildered by Emily's reaction. No. I'm not the director or anything. I don't remember saying anything like that, Ryan said, looking confused. Emily must have overheard the other doctors and mistakenly thought that Ryan, a man, was the director. Emily always had a thing about respecting men. Besides, a female director is rare. So, it's understandable she got it wrong. Then what are you, Ryan? Not a director but a department head? If that's the case, I guess I can forgive you, Emily said, looking at Ryan expectantly. Ryan seemed at a loss for words. Indeed, it would take some courage to reveal his actual position in this situation. As Ryan remained silent, Emily, growing impatient, turned to me and yelled. You know what Ryan's job is, right? Just tell me already. Emily was as bossy as ever. I couldn't help but think if that was the way to ask for something. Ryan kept glancing at me nervously. We had done something irreversible by getting married. Telling Emily about his job would probably horrify her. But we couldn't go on like this. I was a bit curious to see her shocked expression. So, being the kind person I am, I decided to just tell her. Ryan is part-time. So, he doesn't earn as much as you're expecting, Emily. Emily looked stunned for a moment. Then her face turned pale. What? Why is he part-time when he's your peer? What's going on, Ryan? Her shout echoed throughout the cafe. When Ryan first joined the hospital, he worked full-time like the other doctors. But being a 24-hour hospital, it naturally involved night shifts and a demanding schedule. Ryan, not being very ambitious, probably found the night shifts and the tough schedule too hard. After a while, he negotiated with the hospital to work part-time. So now, he works like he's doing a side job. Of course, being a doctor, he earns more than a regular side job. But compared to full-time doctors, the difference is clear. Being part-time means he gets paid by the hour, and there's no bonus. Plus, more days off means less salary. When I explained this to Emily, she gritted her teeth in frustration. I married him thinking he had a high income. Now my plan is ruined, she said and started crying. Your plan? I asked, feeling a bad premonition. After making a scene, Emily said, I have debts, and I was hoping Ryan would help pay them off. And started crying even more. Ryan turned pale upon hearing about the debt. It must have been news to him. As it turned out, Emily was hooked on strip clubs. She had visited various clubs for their introductory offers, but at one club, she fell for a guy. To support him, she started visiting frequently, running up a huge tab. She even ordered a lot of champagne whenever he asked. Actually, it turns out the reason for her divorce from her previous husband was also because she was financially supporting a man, and her debt was discovered. That's what led to the divorce, it seems. I was completely taken aback by Emily's behavior. A tab at a strip club. Ryan's face grew even paler. And they were already married. I can't pay off that kind of debt with just my salary, he muttered to himself. Desperate, Emily turned to me. That's it. You pay off the tab, Samantha. You're a director, you must have the money, right? I don't need Ryan anymore, I'll return him to you. Emily's eyes were bloodshot, terrifying. She must have been in a critical situation. But I had no intention of listening to her. I absolutely refuse to pay off your tab. Ryan is not an object. And how are you going to return him to me now that we're registered as married? I responded in half disbelief. Emily was going too far with her words and actions. Why would she think someone she betrayed would pay off her debts? Even for family, that's too much to ask. I just couldn't follow Emily's thought process. Then, she yelled. Shut up! I need money! If I don't pay off the tab by the end of this month, who knows what will happen? With that, she started trembling in fear. She must have been severely threatened by her favorite host. I had heard that not paying a tab could lead to serious trouble. I couldn't imagine what would happen to Emily. But it was none of my concern. So, I firmly rejected her request. I've decided to use my money for myself. I won't give a penny to someone like you, Emily. You've always been enjoying yourself without studying. Now, you'll have to face the consequences, I said with a chuckle. Then, adding insult to injury, I said, maybe I'll buy a designer bag today. I can afford it, after all. That can't be. Emily was already in tears. Her mascara was running, a terrible sight. But I had no intention of forgiving her just for this. Then, I gave them both a final blow. Oh, and I'll be claiming alimony from both of you. Be prepared. And I won't reduce it just because Emily has debts. At my words, both of them looked even more desperate. It's all your fault for being misleading. No, it's your fault for running up a tab at the strip club. I'm not to blame. Emily and Ryan started blaming each other. They were a match in their ugliness. Just struggle with money from now on, I told them and left. Soon after, Emily and Ryan divorced. Both of them ended up with 2 divorces. I, through my lawyer, claimed alimony from both of them. Since Ryan and I were only engaged, the amount wasn't huge. But it must have been a painful expense for them. Ryan was part-time, and Emily had the club debt on top of that. The alimony must have been mentally tough for them. I had decided to be thorough, so I had no regrets. Later, Ryan left the hospital. Working with me must have been awkward. Also, the hospital was abuzz with rumors about him. I'm the director and the victim here. So the rumors didn't bother me. But for Ryan, it was different. He was the perpetrator and the one deceived by Emily. It must have been uncomfortable for him. Ryan might plan to work at another hospital, but it won't be easy. He's in his 50s, and starting over at a new hospital means working under younger doctors. Our hospital, even as a part-timer, had treated him somewhat preferentially due to his tenure. But it won't be the same at his new job. Ryan will likely struggle at his new hospital. As for Emily, her ending was tragic. She was kicked out of her home by her mother. I reported the whole story to my mother.
What a disaster!
Hearing the story from me, my mother was shocked. Emily had stolen my fiancé from me. It must have seemed unbelievable to her. As a mother, she was furious about Emily's actions this time. Emily was an adult and my mother decided it was time to cut her off.
Get out! Don't ever show your face here again!
That's what my mom said as she disowned Emily. Emily begged her repeatedly.
I don't have any money. If I'm thrown out of here, I'm done for.
She clung on, but ultimately, she gave up and left. For Emily, this meant her debts were piling up. The alimony and the club tabs were weighing heavily on her. Especially the host club tab, which was so high it should have been impossible to pay off under normal circumstances. It's unclear how her debt got so big. Even Emily was shocked when she heard the total from the host. And since her divorce, I've heard that Emily hasn't worked at all. She had always been a housewife during her marriage. With no job experience, Emily faced a harsh reality trying to find work now. It seems she couldn't find a job at all. So, eventually, Emily ended up in the nightlife industry. But at 48, she couldn't compete with the younger girls. Emily surely has a lot of hardship ahead of her to pay off her debts. It's all her own doing. Emily approached me several times for money, but I ignored her. What Emily lost was significant. From now on, her life will be a continual loss. She deserves it, and I have no sympathy. As for me, I'm still running the hospital. The only recent change is that I started keeping a cat. Just when I thought I was finally going to get married, this whole mess happened. Honestly, I'm done with love. So, I decided to find a different kind of happiness. That happiness is with my cat, Mo. A cat won't betray me. Nor will it cheat on me with someone else. After being tossed around by Ryan and Emily, I was pretty drained. Mo has been healing my weary heart. Though a cat, Mo isn't capricious. And always stays by my side. I want to take good care of Mo.
Mo, I bought you a toy you might like today.
I said, and Mo happily came closer. These simple everyday moments are incredibly joyful. Having found new happiness, I'm feeling fulfilled. I plan to live the rest of my life supporting each other with Mo. That's what I'm thinking.